Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about autoimmune disease and how that is related to law of attraction and what we can do about it with hypnosis. I want to start by giving you just a brief review of law of attraction and how that works. I have other videos that go more into depth about law of attraction, about self-hypnosis. I believe I've even got one about how they are connected. So I highly recommend that you take a look at that if you haven't already. But as a quick review, I want you to know that law of attraction says like attracts like. And what that means is that as we emit a vibrational frequency, that there is a frequency out there that already matches that, and it will resonate with our frequency and bring back to us the information we have on that frequency. Let me explain that a little bit more. I like to use the analogy of the radio because a radio station owns a frequency. Now, did you know the radio station called, let's say 98.6 has that number because they own a frequency that peaks, and it goes up and down like this. It peaks 98.6 times per second. That's where it gets that call number. Radio station down the street, they own the frequency that peaks 103 times per second. So that's 103, FM 103. And they own that frequency, and they have the technology to put information on those frequencies that goes out into the airwaves. We dial into that with our radio, and we can hear that information. So think of us kind of like those radios. We emit a frequency. The thing is that most people don't know that they have absolute control over the information they're putting out on that frequency, and they just kind of send information out by default. So this is all about learning how to hone in and to really give a targeted focus in regard to the information on that frequency about your health, so that as you identify this information and you review that multiple times in the state of hypnosis, you actually create new neural pathways in your brain. And then this new frequency, actually it's new information on your frequency, just becomes the norm, and you will notice a difference in your health. So that is just a kind of a quick little run through on how that works. I do want to talk about the possibility that if you have an illness in your life, that it may not be something that can be treated, because it may be something that is part of your life path. For many of us, it is my belief that we choose all the major milestones in our lives, and we choose them for a reason. We have things we want to experience, we want to learn, we want to process certain information. And so I had some childhood illnesses that were quite severe, and I don't think that had anything to do with the frequency I was sending out consciously. I think it had more to do with the fact that I chose that in this life I would have these experiences and I would learn a lot from them, and I have, as did my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters. So it's not just about you, it's about all of the people in your circle that, it's part of their path too. So I just want to throw that in there, because sometimes we have an illness or an injury that we can definitely heal and cure and work with on our own. And sometimes we don't, because it is part of our life path. I think that if you can, figure that out at a very, personal, deep level for yourself about what that's about, that you can certainly make some change for yourself. But yeah, that's a whole different topic. We're not going to go down that road today. Suffice it to say that you may very well have autoimmune disorder, as something that you can do something about. So in the event that you can, I'm going to teach you how to do that by teaching you how to create your own personal change blueprint. Now, if you've watched my other videos, you know that this is kind of my thing. This is my signature program, and this is how you change the information on the frequency that you are sending out into the world, into the universe. Because what I find with most people that are sick, they want to get better. Who doesn't, right? Okay. Nobody wants to be sick all the time. But when you are focused on your illness and you are obsessed with the supplements, and you're going to the acupuncturist and the massage therapist and the, this and that, and the hypnotist, whatever it is, you're so focused on the illness that you are sending out information on your frequency that says, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick. All of that. So even though you might think you're doing all the right things, you may very well, in fact, be making the problem worse. Stay tuned. You're going to learn a lot more about that as you learn how to communicate with your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, if you recall from other videos I've made, your subconscious mind speaks its own language, and it's not the language of words. It's imagery. It takes your words, whether you're thinking them, saying them, listening to them, reading them, whatever it is, it's making imagery. And it is that imagery that is the content of the information that goes into the neural pathways and then is sent out on that frequency. Now, here's the thing. When your subconscious mind is making imagery out of all of these words in whatever form you are feeding it to them, it cannot make a picture of you not doing something. I know that's a weird sentence. What that means is that if you say, I want to stop being allergic to this, it just makes a picture of you being allergic to this. It cannot make a picture of you not doing something. It's like right now, if I said to you, I want you to stop thinking of a red truck, well, you just did think of a red truck for a second, even though I said stop doing that, don't do that, you did. But it's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's just the way the brain works. So for many of us that have an illness or an injury, we are not getting the positive change that we are intending to get just because we're not using the language the right way. So in this blueprint, I'm going to teach you how to use the language the right way so that you create the neural pathways for what you do want, when many of you are sabotaging yourself by using language that is just making the problem worse, creating what you don't want. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you. So, are you ready? We're going to start this personal change blueprint. And the first step, the first thing that we want to do when we consider this blueprint, and again, what we're doing is we are telling a new story. We are giving the subconscious mind a new mind movie to obsess over. And this time it's going to have all the language that creates all the imagery of what you do want. I know you think you already know what you want, but I'll bet you anything, if I were to sit down and talk with you and ask you what you wanted right now, you'd give me a list of all the things you don't want. I'd say, what do you want? You say, well, I want to be able to eat without having an allergic reaction all the time. Your brain just made a picture of you having an allergic reaction all the time. So that's what I mean by teaching you how to think right so that you can manifest right. So first step, we're going to look at this unwanted thing you have. And maybe you're not dealing with an autoimmune disorder. Maybe you have a different kind of an illness or an injury that you want help with. So whatever it is for you, just plug it in, okay? We want to find the value, the golden nuggets, whatever it is that has come to you as a result of having had this experience. Now, I know that for some people, when they have had an illness, they have learned a lot about nutrition. I have a client that I work with all the time that, man, this woman does her research. She knows more than her doctors know about the, physiology and human anatomy and all of that. She knows so much. And so if I were to ask her, what's different about you in a good way that you would not be had you not had these illnesses, that could be one thing. She could say that I'm really up on nutrition. I know how the body works and I'm able to help other people with this. Those are all really good things. For some people, having an illness ends up leading them down a certain career path. They go into the medical field or they become a healer or something because of that illness. So we want to start by looking at the good that's come out of the illness. Now, why is that important? This is so important that you do this. Think about it. Right now, as somebody with an illness, an autoimmune disorder, you're sending out a vibrational frequency that has a lot of information about being sick and all the symptoms and all the problems it causes and all the things you don't like about it. So it's sending out a lot of negative energy. So we're kind of jumping on that boat, but we're saying, but I like this part and this part was good and I value this part and I appreciate this part. So I'm going to keep this part and I'm going to very lovingly thank it, the rest of it, bless it, and send it on its way. And I'm going to just focus on this good stuff. So we have very gently shifted our energy toward the frequency of what we want. Okay, we're shifting the information on that frequency. If you just try to address something and say, I hate it, it sucks, it's ruining my life, and I don't want it anymore, do you think that's going to get rid of that frequency? I don't think so. That's going to just send that information out. It's going to resonate with like frequency, and that's going to come right back to you. So I hope that part makes sense to you. It's so, so important. So identify what you're getting out of it. You're getting something out of it. I don't care what it is or who you are. There is value. There's a golden nugget in this experience of having an illness. There always is. The next question you want to ask yourself is, it's a very simple question, but it's really hard to answer. And it's, what is your outcome? What is it you want? We want to name this change, but a big mistake a lot of people make in this part of the blueprint is that they want to start identifying all of the details that will be different because they've made this change. We will get to the details, I promise. I want to identify what is the change that you want. I know you don't want to be sick anymore. I know that you don't want to have allergic reactions anymore, but can you hear that language? Don't want, don't want, don't want. That's just keeping that imagery right there. What do you want? It's going to be a simple one sentence outcome. I want to be physically healthy. I want to be in balance. I want to feel healthy all day long. What is it that you want? It's a simple statement. And then after you've identified what you want, we go on to the next step, which is, I call this the evidence. And basically what this means is, what's different? I hope you're writing this stuff down, because if you put all of this into action in your self-hypnosis session, you will really start to notice some changes for yourself, big time changes. You can completely eliminate a lot of these symptoms of this illness for you because you're changing the frequency on it. So what's different? Because you've accomplished your outcome, and your outcome was so simple. Your outcome was something like, I want to be in balance physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I want to be completely healthy. Okay. Or I want to be free from any level of unhealthiness. That's another one. Okay. I can see that. That's a good picture. So what has changed? Maybe one of the changes you're noticing is that you can eat whatever you want to now. That gives you a whole lot of freedom. Oh my gosh. You can go to restaurants, you can go to barbecue at friends' houses, you can travel and you can eat whatever you want and just have the absolute certainty that you're okay with eating whatever you want. Maybe you wake up in the morning and you are bursting with energy. That would be a nice change, right? I remember for years waking up every morning and feeling like I needed a nap as soon as I woke up. And thank goodness those days are gone, right? Because I just changed the perspective on that. And that is very different for me now. Because you're healthy and you've got energy and you just feel more light and carefree, you've got time to focus on other interests, creative endeavors. I think I love doing crafts all the time. I'm not any good at any one of them, and I don't care. It's just fun to do it. I love doing all that stuff. And I know that when I'm sick and I don't feel well, I don't care about any of that. I mean, I've got a whole craft room. I've got a regular, Michael's in the other room there. I could set up shop and sell all of those things. I have plenty of fun things to do, but when I don't feel good, I don't feel like doing it. So this would be a good thing to put for you, if this is true for you, that one of the changes you would notice is that you would feel more creative. So now you've identified the value that you've gotten out of the illness. You have extracted the value. You've looked at the rest of it and said, I'm going to thank you, bless you, send you on your way. I'm keeping the value. I appreciate it very much. And here's my outcome. Here's what, from this time forward, I find it very easy to be healthy all the time. Because of that, here's my evidence. Here are the changes that I've noticed. And the next step in this blueprint is I want you to identify, what does that look like? Now, I just backed up all the way to the first part of this blueprint and gave you kind of a running total of all the information we've created so far, and all of it's very positive. And as I was telling you that, you should be generating, your subconscious mind should be generating just all on its own, some kind of imagery. What does that look like? Now, it can be literal or figurative. You might see yourself, dancing in the clouds. Who knows? I mean, if that's what imagery comes to mind for you, because you've accomplished this outcome, that's a legitimate answer. So think about that, jot down those kinds of ideas. And let me remind you again, what we are doing is we are training your brain, we are rewiring your brain to have completely different thoughts about your physical condition. And through the repetition of going over these details, you are rewiring your subconscious mind. It is physically changing the neural pathways in your brain. And those neural pathways determine the content on that frequency that you send out. This is the connection between law of attraction and hypnosis, or the subconscious mind. We are, and again, just a quick reminder, we send out information from the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, the conscious part of you knows all this good stuff. I want to feel good. I want to be happy. I want this, right? But that's only sending out 1 to 5% of all this frequency. And that is why, even though you've been given it, your best effort, this could be why you haven't been able to see the changes you want. So we're getting this subconscious mind, this bigger part of you, on board with the conscious mind. You just got to hear a little bit of the story that I'm creating, and the imagery should have come up for you on that. This is very much like a mind movie. And of course, every movie has a soundtrack. So the next section is going to be about the associated sounds that you notice because you have accomplished your outcome. Each time you go through these questions on this blueprint, I recommend that you go back and you do a review. Review the value, review the outcome, the evidence, what it looked like, and now you're onto the soundtrack. So perhaps what it sounds like for you, because you've accomplished your outcome and all of this stuff is happening, maybe you hear the sound of laughter. That would be a really, really good thing to hear. Maybe it's from you, maybe it's from other people. Maybe you hear the sound of you ordering whatever you want at the restaurant because you can. And again, I know that a lot of people with autoimmune disorder, they'll be very careful about what they eat, about what they put in their body, because it can be kind of touch and go sometimes. So that would be a wonderful change, that because you've accomplished your outcome, you see all this evidence happening, all these changes, and you can hear the sound of your own voice ordering what you want at the restaurant. That's always a good sound. Yes, I like to hear the sound of my voice ordering at restaurants on a regular basis. The next question you're going to want to ask yourself is about the way this feels for you. And this includes physical and emotional and any other way that you might feel. Most of us are feeling people, kinesthetic people. So we've talked about the visual aspects. We've talked about the auditory aspects. We're going to talk about the kinesthetic now. If you've studied this work at all, you may have heard of VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So that's where we are now. And the best way for you to really get a feel for this is to go back again and review the information you jotted down and then say, what does it feel like for you? Maybe you just feel so happy because you've accomplished your outcome to be a healthy person. Maybe you feel an incredible sense of relief. I certainly would. And maybe because you are happy, because you are relieved, maybe you feel a real sense of empowerment. I always love it when my clients feel empowered and liberated. Those are always really good things to feel. So jot down what that feels like. And again, what I'm having you do through this process is this is how you are rewiring your subconscious mind so that you're changing the information you're sending out on the frequency so that it finds or is found by, that's more accurate, it is found by a matching frequency and they resonate with each other. And that brings that back to you. So the more you send out the information that you're writing down, the more you send that out, the more that's going to come back to you. So the more you send out the frequency of being happy and healthy and free and empowered, it's going to come back to you tenfold, and you're going to have more things to be happy about. You're going to have a deeper sense of feeling relief and empowerment. So, it's one of those things that the better you feel, the better it gets, and the better it gets, the better you feel, right? You're on the upward spiral of health and wellness now, and that's right where we want you to be with this. There's no reason for you to have to live with an autoimmune disorder if it is not your destiny, if it's not a part of your life path to deal with this. You don't have to. You can change this, but you have to know how to change it, and that's what you're learning here. Let's take a look at the next one. This next one is interesting. It's when I teach my students on this part, I always tell them this one is kind of it's the come to Jesus moment. This is where you're summarizing everything, and you've looked at this thing you don't want. You've extracted the value that it's brought into your life, and you have been grateful and appreciative of that. And you've said, thank you, thank you. Now I'm going to thank you all those first. The rest of it goes, bless you and send you on your way. You're keeping that value. You've identified your outcome. You've jotted down all the change happening in your life, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like. And so look at this whole story. And now think about, what does having all this do for you? I mean, seriously, what's the big whoop? Who cares if you're healthy? Well, of course, you do and I do, but you know what I mean. What does this mean in regard to your life plan? I mean, this is a big deal, right? What does having this change do for you? Because these changes that people make, these are game changers in a big way. This is not just a minor little, oh, this is better thing. This is huge. This is huge. And we're going to jump into what kind of positive influence this is going to have on these other areas of your life in just a moment. But take a moment and just sort of reflect on that. Take your time with this. What does having this change do for you? Can you tell already that you are focusing on the goodness of this and the positive changes, and you are building this beautiful mind movie now that includes what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like. Here's the evidence of things different in my life. Because of this, I wake up with energy. I feel good. I'm focused on my art again, my creativity, etc., etc., etc. It's all good stuff. So now you've identified what having this change does for you. And we're going to look at what kind of a positive influence you're going to notice on these next areas of your life. This was the question 8, when I said it's really got 5 parts to it. It's all the same question, right? The question is, what is the positive influence you notice on, number 1, your relationships? Well, have you thought about that? Because this change that you're making is not just about you. This is a domino effect. It's going to influence every part of your life and every part of the lives of all the people that you interact with, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes, I said that. So let's take a look at that. You're going to feel more like hanging out with friends because you feel better, right? You're going to enjoy time with friends. You can go and do things that they like to do all the time. Maybe you have an intimate relationship that you're going to feel more like nurturing because you feel better. This is going to be a positive influence on this relationship for you. You can, when you think about relationship, this is everybody, even complete strangers, the guy at the grocery store. I know that when I don't feel good, I don't really like to go to the store because those people irritate the heck out of me. They're all slow folks. They get in my way and they're just stupid. I mean, they're not really, but you know how it is when you don't feel well everybody just irritates you. So when you do feel well, this is going to have a positive influence on the way you interact with people, friends, family, coworkers, strangers. What's going to be like for you at work? You're going to just feel more comfortable with yourself. And so you are going to exude that positive energy. People are going to respond differently to you because you are feeling better. Let's take a look at what kind of positive influence this will have on your career and finances, if any. Will you notice a difference in your career? Like we said at the very beginning, maybe having this illness has actually encouraged you to go into a medical field. So that's a big influence on your career and finances. How does this influence your finances? I will bet you that if you have an autoimmune disorder, you're spending a boatload of money on supplements and treatments and all kinds of therapies. So maybe you'll be saving a lot of money after, but maybe you'll be spending more money because you'll be feeling so good. You'll be traveling and you'll be going to more restaurants and you'll be having more dinner parties and, doing all of those things, investing in all those craft supplies, right? So it's going to have an influence on your finances and it will be positive, whether you're saving or spending. Jot down those for you. Think about health. Of course, this is the most obvious one for this topic. It's the positive influence you're going to notice on your health. So think about what kinds of health problems you have been having and which ones will be gone because you've accomplished this outcome. You're probably going to sleep better. You're going to have better digestion. Maybe your skin will clear up. You're going to have more energy because health includes your mental and emotional health, right? Not just your physical health. But think about all of the positive influences you're going to notice in your health because you've accomplished your outcome, that simple outcome of having a healthy body or whatever you wrote down for your outcome. It's kind of like this outcome is the hub of the wheel and all of these other ideas are the spokes. And as you visit these over and over and through the repetition of this information, you're creating permanent neural pathways in your brain. When we say rewire your brain, we really mean it. Rewire your brain. You truly create new neural pathways. And then that just becomes your normal way of being. And that becomes the normal content of the information you're sending out on that frequency. And then you're manifesting everything you're talking about in here. Isn't that cool? I just love it. It's so cool. Let's talk about your self-esteem. We've just got two more areas. Self-esteem. What kind of a positive influence will you notice on your self-esteem? You're going to really love yourself more. Maybe you will. Like, when you were a kid, when we were kids, we just took for granted that we were good people. And, well, most of us, not everybody, had those kinds of childhoods. But you might just feel good about yourself. Carefree, happy, loving, look in the mirror, love the way you look. And just be happy. Maybe you just really feel like, what? All is well with the world. I like it here. I like how I am and who I am and the way I interact. I like the way I express myself in this world. So jot down some positive changes that you will notice in your self-esteem. And the last one we're going to look at is the positive change you'll notice in your spiritual practice, if you have one. If you don't have one, that's okay. You don't have to make this work. But most of us do have some kind of a spiritual practice. And I think for a lot of people, when they're feeling better, I don't know, maybe you're a churchgoer. Organized religion is still very popular for a lot of people, but they don't want to go to church because they don't feel well. This could be a change for you. If you are a churchgoer, you're going to feel more like going to church because you just feel better and enjoy yourself more. I personally, I like to meditate. And I know when I don't feel good, you think that would be the time to meditate, right? Because you're just sitting there. Anyway, I don't know. I got to be in the right frame of mind to do it. And I think that when I'm doing this kind of work and I'm accomplishing that outcome of having a healthy body, that my meditation practice is a whole lot better. So that might be true for you as well. And I know for a lot of people, there are a lot of retreats that you can go to. But when you don't feel well, you just don't want to go to a retreat and try to fake your way through it. But when you're feeling better, it's very much a reality that you could attend one of those retreats that you've been wanting to go through for all these years. So that's the end of the personal change blueprint. And again, I've got other videos that go into this in much greater detail, but this is how you're going to change the frequency of what you're doing. If you are ill, if you're experiencing an illness, I hesitate to use the word suffering, right? I don't like that word. There's pain and there's suffering. Pain is ouch, it hurts. Yes, there's a nail in my hand, there's pain. Suffering is when you push that to the future and go, oh my God, what am I going to do? What if I get an infection? Oh, it's going to leave a scar. It's going to be terrible. Well, what if I have to get my hand cut off? What if I get sepsis? And you just go off to the races with a bunch of crap. That's suffering. Okay. Pain is pain. Don't turn that into suffering. So for those of you that are experiencing any kind of an illness or an injury, and you want to start changing the frequency that you're sending out on that, you will notice a huge difference in the way you feel. But you've got to change the information that you are sending out from the subconscious part of your mind. Again, conscious and subconscious, you're sending out from both sides, but the conscious part is only sending out 1 to 5%, pretty insignificant. So this is how you change the information in the subconscious mind. Now, how do you implement all of this? It's with self-hypnosis. And again, you can go watch my video. In fact, I'll just link those below so that you can learn how to do that if you haven't already learned how. That is everything I have to say about changing frequency. If you have any kind of an autoimmune disorder or other illness that you've got going on, if you're excited about this, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you have, thank you. And, give me a thumbs up. Leave some comments for me. Leave some questions. If those of you that leave me questions now and then, I just love it. I love interacting with people and getting that dialogue going on back and forth. And stay tuned for my podcast. If it's not already up and running by the time you listen to this, it will be soon. And I'm going to be putting out an all call for people to work with me for free. Well, it's not really for free. It's in exchange for permission to be on the podcast. How's that? So you would actually get a free hypnosis session with me on anything you want, as long as you agree to have that recorded and, put out there for the world to see. You would be helping so many people. Anyway, I digress. I hope this has been helpful for you. Leave me some questions. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know what else I can make a video on. This video actually was created by request. So thank you for that request. And let me know what else I can do to help you.